Hey everyone, it is Bren here from Big Geeky Blog, and I am doing our very first kind of like recap theories on the originals in its final season, and I'm finally caught up. It just took me a while to get caught up on the latest episode, and I have so much to say, and I have so many theories of how the series is going to wrap up towards the tail end and finalize for the originals. There is a show that's coming after the originals called The Legacies, and that's also playing into this whole like last bit of the season for the originals, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But to avoid being all over the place and kind of not being kind of like structured, we're just gonna kind of go over a couple like key things basically, or themes in this final season. So we're introduced to this vampire called Gretta. She's like mother, but basically she's like the worst kind of mother. I forgive me if I'm going a little bit Twilight here, but kind of felt kind of like the Collins, where like they take like adoptive children in. That's kind of like Greta. She takes like adoptive vampires and werewolves. No, I think they're all vampires, but like basically Greta is essentially a Colin slash Volturi, if you know my Twilight references. But she believes in this thing called natural states, and she's part of this group called the Siennas, and they are declaring natural order. Now, what that means is that natural order, if you're supernatural and you're turned into a vampire, a werewolf, a witch, you are one singular supernatural creature. Now, what Greta believes in is that there's no such thing as hybrids. So characters like Klaus and Haley and Hope, and for a brief moment, Henry, they are basically breaking that natural order, and they're unnatural creatures, and they need to be done away with because hybrids are evil. So she convinces her adoptive son Roman, who likes Hope, and Hope likes Roman, but Roman is a Sienna, and kind of very naive. But just a quick little thing here, he kind of reminds me of Caleb. Do you remember Caleb back in like season 3? Where, Cole's in this like random, body named Caleb, and Davina falls in love. But anyways, he kind of looks like him. Anyways, see, look, I go on tangents. Yeah, so they want this natural order. They convince Roman that it's the thing to do, and that Hope needs to do the binding spell to stop all hybrids from ever being created, because with her blood, Haley's blood, and Klaus's blood, they can create hybrids. Now, essentially, Roman is coaxed by Greta that he needs to kind of talk Hope into doing this. Well, in an obvious way in development, Haley discovers that the binding spell is not only to get rid of hybrids, it's to kill them all. So kill them all. Anyways, yeah, so Haley kind of becomes like this self-sacrificing character, and she kind of always has been when it comes to Hope. From the early stages of originals in her pregnancy, she had sacrificed herself, which she ultimately did, to give birth to Hope. And in this episode, you see that as well, when she has Hope do the binding spell, which ultimately takes away the hybrid piece of her, and now Haley is just a vampire. And yeah, the sacrificing does not stop there. So Haley basically tries to take down Greta. They get into this like hand-to-hand combat. Haley's about to get her heart snatched out when she looks to Hope, who's unconscious on the floor. Klaus is injured by Elijah, which Elijah's a whole different thing. I'll get to him. And she, in the moment, realizes what she needs to do, takes a breath, rips off Greta's finger that has a sunlight ring, and rushes off into the sunset, where they burn to death. Now, for me, I found this scene kind of underwhelming. I wanted more emotion. I was hoping that Hope was alive, because Hope's like whole thing in the beginning of the season was this like rebellious thing. She kind of got her mom into trouble by, having this spell and cloaking her and having Henry help knock out her mom in order to lure Klaus, her daddy, back home. And now she's dead. And Hope wasn't there to say goodbye. She didn't get a final moment with her mother. Klaus didn't even say anything about her name. Elijah doesn't even know who she is. It was just kind of the worst care to death I've ever seen on a supernatural show on the CW. So, yeah. I was just, yeah, I'm not going to go any more into that. Let's talk Elijah. So Elijah has been on this weird journey this season. He was compelled, excuse me guys, to forget the Michelson clan. Now, he meets this woman called Antoinette, who is also a Sienna and adoptive daughter to Gretta, and they are engaged. He says that he kind of remembers certain memories, that he's not under full compulsion anymore, that he's getting his memories back, but it's not entirely true, because when Haley called his name, he's like, who are you? Or kind of looked at her like, who the fuck are you? And yeah, Elijah, I feel, in my theory, is that he's going to die. I think Antoinette and him will not get married. Something's going to happen to Antoinette in the end as well, or she's killed in some way. I don't know who's going to kill her, but she's going to die. And I think Elijah is going to be so guilt-stricken once he gets all his memories back and realizes that Haley has died, what he's done to his own family, and what he's done to Hope. He's going to be so guilt-stricken that he's going to die. Now, the reason why I think that is because the Hollow is separated into the Michelson clan. So Cole, Rebecca, Klaus, and Elijah all have the Hollow within them, including Hope. So they can't all be together, because if they are, the Hollow will basically be back, and New Orleans will be ruined, and it's endgame for the originals. So for me, I think he's going to die. And by dying in his death, the Hollow will be forever kind of entombed or kept at bay with the other Michelsons, because now they can all be together, because the one key member is missing, and that key member holds a piece of the Hollow. That's just a theory. To me, I see it happening. I feel like they're building us to not like Elijah, to then only rip our hearts out at the end when he dies. That's just a theory. Another important thing is that the unity of fractions is another huge part of this whole season. Gretta kind of wants to cause chaos to the point where all these fractions between the werewolves, the witches, and the vampires aren't able to kind of play peacefully. But I think Hope, in her name, is the last hope for these fractions to kind of find peace, and she is the key piece to hope in New Orleans. Ta-da! Like how that piecing together is. And lastly, I want to talk about Caroline. Now, I have enjoyed Caroline in the Vampire Diaries, and I'm enjoying them even more in New Orleans on the originals. Caroline, she is assisting Klaus. She's kind of portraying a very motherly kind of voice of reason when it comes to Klaus. Like, she kind of addresses that he's a father, that this is a father way of feeling, and she's here to help him, and they kind of have reminiscing things. I think towards the end, they will be together. They will be canon, like true canon, and they are going to kind of just like step back in the world and leave Alaric to run the school, and she's kind of gonna see over it, but her and Klaus are gonna explore the world together while keeping an eye on Hope, because the whole legacy thing, because there's no Caroline, there's no Klaus in the legacy, it's only Alaric. So that's kind of my theory about that as well. Let me know, sound off in the comments what you think too, how the season's going to wrap up. Like I said, I think Elijah's going to die, Antoinette's going to die, Klaus and Caroline are going to be canon, and hope will be restored to New Orleans. So yeah, thank you for listening to this recap podcasting vlog thing for Beaky He Blog. Be sure to stay tuned, subscribe to us. We have very cool things coming up for the vlog again. We're kind of restoring all that. I'm really excited to kind of share all these things with you in the future. But let me know your thoughts. I'll be back again for the originals. Maybe come back and see if my predictions are true. And I'll catch you guys later.